Okay, here we are. Congress Member Wasserman Schultz, good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a video from one of your constituents who is introing you. So why don't we run that? And then we'll dive right into our conversation.
Hi, my name is Veronica Tomor, and I am an advocate with Parents Against Vaping. Unbeknownst to me, I started this journey back in 2015 when my brother had a stroke, and fortunately he survived. In 2018, my sister had a massive stroke, and after 21 days in the intensive care unit and a few days later, she passed. And then my mom in 2019 had a massive stroke. She survived, but unfortunately, this past December, we lost her to a bleeding stroke, a massive bleeding stroke. The common denominator with all three was that they were heavy smokers. And both my brother and my mom had quit smoking many years ago. My sister had not, but for all three, smoking came back to collect in the worst way. It took their lives. And so you can imagine my frustration, my anger, when one day in 2020, I went into my oldest son's bag, was 20 at the time, and I found a vaping device. And I was just perplexed, but very angry. And I confronted him, and he denied it. He said it was a friend's. But then I kept finding the devices throughout the house, and I kept finding supplies and just indicators that he was clearly vaping. And he had gone through this very intense emotional journey of what we had gone through with the family. And even more frustrating for me was the fact that I went into my youngest son's backpack as well, and I did find vaping devices as well. So my crusade began very intensely in just speaking with them on a daily basis about this and reminding them that this would come back to collect years later in either a stroke, a heart attack, lung disease, cancer, or in many other ways. After repeating myself ad nauseum for 2 years, my kids have finally stopped. And I'm very proud, but I'm very passionate in this crusade to create awareness about the dangers of vaping. And I am an advocate and partner with Parents Against Vaping in our crusade to make sure that no more lives are taken, and that people are informed, and that youth is well informed about the dangers of vaping. And it is my pleasure now to introduce Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's been one of our lead partners in the House of Representatives in the youth vaping fight. In particular this year, she has been the champion in securing additional federal funding for the Office of Smoking and Health at the Centers for Disease Control, the CDC, and Prevention, and has led efforts for a sign-on letter with her House colleagues calling on the FDA to stop the delay and complete the review of the pending pre-market tobacco applications. So please join me in welcoming Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Thank you, Veronica. Wow. What a story. Tragic. But I do have to echo what she said about you, Representative Wasserman Schultz, and your passion and your focus on protecting your constituents, protecting all of our kids around the country. You've been a member of Congress since 2013, and we met you in 2019 when we testified for the for the Congressional Oversight Subcommittee and the hearing on Juul run by Congressmember Raja Krishnamurthy, which examined Juul's role in the youth vaping epidemic. And I must say, what struck us first and foremost was your passion, your anger, and your indignation, which we shared, which is, how can we be here again? You know, this company is predatory and targeting our kids, and we've seen this before. So thank you so much for joining us today at our second Clear the Vapor conference. So I just want to start, you have a history of advocating for those who don't have a voice, and you've supported many legislative actions, some of which your constituent just mentioned are volunteer. But you're above all a parent. And once you said to a reporter, you can say anything you want about me, but do not question my parenting. And, that's how we all feel. I had a whole list of questions, but what I want to discuss first is the most recent court filing by FDA, which was, a little more than a week ago, where they said that they will not finish reviewing all the applications for the PMTA, which is, the pre-market tobacco authorization of all of these products, until the end of June 2023. Now, this is almost 2 years past their deadline, and kids are continuing to use these products, and they're becoming addicted. I mean, Senator Durbin was furious. He gave a speech on the Senate floor last week. What can we do? What do you think of this delay?
So Dorian, first of all, thank you so much. And thank you to Veronica for that really poignant story. I mean, what you can't say it any more clearly than the stories that she shared. And they really, they are emblematic of the reasons that I am so passionate about this issue myself. The only factual correction I'll make, and it's because I want to illustrate why this is so important to me. I was elected in 2004 to Congress. No, that's okay. The reason I'm even mentioning it is because when I was elected to Congress, my youngest daughter was 1 and my twins were 5. And so my children have literally grown up through my service, through my public service. And so I have had issues that matter to moms with young children at the forefront of my legislative agenda, because I was living them every day, and because it's why it's so critical that we have people from all walks of life who are making policy through distinct and different lenses and distinct and different experiences. If you didn't have a mom like me who was literally raising little kids while making law, then maybe this issue wouldn't reach the top of the legislative agenda. Maybe it wouldn't get raised in committee. And then maybe we wouldn't be able to make sure that we had made the kinds of advances on this issue like we have. So I think it's important to acknowledge some of the significant progress that we've made, and thanks to the advocacy of organizations like PAVE. So let's be clear. Parent advocacy has been so incredibly important. And I will start by answering your question and just say, the best way forward is for the FDA to take these products, all of them, off the market right now. They're all unauthorized. I mean, I know they have they're going through the review process, and they've been inundated. There's, probably they were expecting far fewer applications than they have. I think, they're in the millions here. But they should start by taking them off the market. They're illegal products, unauthorized products in the first place, and then put them back on as they go through their pre-market review. But they haven't done that. And like Senator Durbin, I in committee have been really pushing through, engaging in Q&A with the FDA commissioner, as well as leading letters and communicating aggressively and securing funds, as Veronica mentioned, through the Office of Smoking and Health. We have to, this is like an all hands on deck effort. Mm-hmm. We have the tobacco industry, and the reason that we're here, Dorian, is because as a result of the decades-long effort to make smoking socially unacceptable, and to also underscore that these are death vehicles, that the tobacco industry has been back on its heels, and they are trying to right the ship by creating addictive products again and hooking kids. That's the bottom line.
Exactly. And they're portraying these devices, these products, as safe, or safe
Mhm.
for cigarettes. And, in spite of all the PMTA review, these products have not been around long enough to really know what's safe and what's not safe and
Oh,
how.
it's just such BS. I mean, whether on the oversight committee or on the appropriations committee, the more I hear claims that, these are safe products, or the uncertainty means that we should just trust that they're better than cigarettes. With hooking people, children or adults, to nicotine and exposing them to the range of chemicals that are inhaled when you are vaping, it's not possible for it to be healthy. And there are countless examples like Veronica went through with her family members. And I'll tell you, as someone who lost every close family member that I have lost, whether it was both my grandmothers and my mom last year, to, thank you, to lung cancer or a stroke or heart disease as a result of smoking, I will continue to be their worst enemy.
Right. And these products, have not been proven to help adult smokers stop smoking. The dual use is widely documented. And again, the data is not there. So, what would you advise? You have so many constituents. There are so many constituents from Florida, but around the country who reach out to us, whose kids get hooked. We heard earlier that these products, we heard earlier from CDC that these products hook kids faster. Within 2 weeks. You can be hooked on these products, and they are so hard to get off. So what would you advise to parents whose kids have been negatively impacted, by FDA's failure to fully regulate these products? And what can they do? What state and local action can they take to make a change and to voice their opinion? Because that's really what we are. We're volunteers, and we want to get out there and share personal stories.
So the two principal things I'm hearing lately are, first, disappointment in our Governor DeSantis's veto and failure to protect our kids. And second, that they're glad that the FDA took action to ban menthol and flavors, but certainly we wish they had done that sooner. We still have more work to do, but the governor in Florida, Ron DeSantis, actually vetoed a bill that would have banned the sale of nearly all flavored electronic cigarette products and raised the state's smoking age from 18 to 21. Now, mind you, that was passed by a Republican legislature, and he still vetoed it. So he's in the pocket of big tobacco. And I mean, we have, and he argued that hundreds of thousands of Floridians rely on vaping to be able to stop smoking, or as a reduced risk alternative. But he clearly missed the big picture, and we need to make sure that we use our parent advocacy network to communicate. Go to the town halls, Dorian. Make sure that you're participating in Zoom in Zoom events like this one, and post questions in the chat. Make sure you reach out by email and phone calls. We've got to be hearing from our constituents about how important they think making sure that we take these harmful products to our children off the market. And that pressure works. It really does. So don't think that your advocacy it isn't impactful. It is.
Right. And the true story is, again, is so powerful because as we heard earlier, many of these, elected officials, but also, everyone needs to hear what's happening. One of the main concerns that we hear from parents is, they're concerned about treatment, about their kids vaping, not being able to stop vaping. We talked about mental health earlier, and we're in the midst of a huge mental health crisis. But a lot of these families either can't afford to find a psychiatrist, or they can't even find one to begin with. But quite frankly, the FDA cessation methods are authorized for 18 and older. So there is no FDA. And I know you just voted in with Senator Blumenthal to introduce the PROTECT Act to, enhance research, education, and messaging. But what can they do about cessation and about treatment?
So we did introduce the Preventing Opportunities for Teen E-Cigarette and Tobacco Addiction, or the PROTECT Act, and it will, if we're able to get it moving, add another important set of tools to address what is an alarming rise in e-cigarette use among youth. We need more resources to be able to make sure that kids have access to mental health, to cessation programs, to the funding that we were able to provide to the Office of Smoking and Health is really so critical. And that's what we're going to have to continue to keep pushing, is making sure that we tailor those cessation programs and put funding behind them to help kids be able to wean themselves off, because the tobacco companies are getting them hooked.
Right. And these products, there is no dosage, meaning a cigarette you can use and then put out. But these devices have so much nicotine, and the kids are using them 24/7. They're sleeping with them under their pillow. So it's a different problem, really. And there's not the stigma. I mean, my own son said, it's not unusual now to go out and see kids vaping when you're with your friends. Before, it's like, ooh, what do you? And now it's become normalized. And I think that's really the main issue that we have to fight against. We have to do, messaging. That's part of your thing. We have to do messaging. We have to do,
Dorian, it's not uncool. On the contrary, what the way they've been marketing these products is they've made vaping cool, like smoking cigarettes used to be. And
exactly.
We have to make this socially unacceptable again. And taking the flavors out will do that. But also just making sure that we put money into targeting the advertising. I haven't seen as much advertising in the anti-tobacco promotions that focus on the dangers of vaping and e-cigarettes. And I think we need to make sure that we direct more funding towards making that socially unacceptable.
Absolutely. CDC, FDA, they need to do that. Now, back to FDA, you mentioned the flavors, and you did mention menthol earlier. So just to clarify for everyone, the FDA recently made a groundbreaking announcement, after years of advocacy by organizations such as the AATC-LC, the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, and so many other organizations, that they were going to begin the process to end the sale of menthol cigarettes. Now, this is something that's been done in Canada, it's been done in Europe, and we've been fighting, organizations have been fighting for years to do this. Now, this is huge, and this will protect many different communities and generations from more addiction. And the FDA itself laid out why menthol is so dangerous and so addictive, and how the tobacco industry uses menthol to addict people, because it cools the throat, it amplifies the impact of the nicotine, it makes the product more addictive. So now that we know how bad menthol is, and menthol is actually a kid favorite, all of these fruity devices are iced, which means they're mentholated, and then you have the mint and menthol. So it's one of the larger categories of kids who use flavors. But how do we know if the FDA is even going to ban menthol ban menthol e-cigarettes based on their own rules? That's something that we really need to push.
Right. And that's where advocacy is key. And we all play our roles. The availability of menthol cigarettes has disproportionately harmed the health of Black Americans, and they've been the target of menthol cigarette advertising. Flavored cigars also present a serious public health concern, and those have exploded and are particularly attractive to youth. They're making those cigars smaller. Through appropriations, my colleagues and I are pushing hard for the FDA to act on menthol and cigars, and we have a proposed rule that's on its way. But they do have the power to act on e-cigarettes and cutting menthol. They haven't yet, and they should address the issue of synthetic nicotine as well. We have to continue. We've gotten to this point and would not have without activism from organizations like PAVE and legislators hearing from individual constituents, and then that giving voice to our pushing in the committees during the markups, whether it's in the appropriations process or committees where legislation is heard, and having those debates, bringing it out into the open, because this what the tobacco companies abhor the spotlight. They want to do this all in the shadows. They don't want people to know that they are spiking nicotine and increasing the concentration. They've lied over and over and over again about what the impact of flavors. It's mind blowing. So we have to just continue to advocate and be public call them out and put pressure on decision makers.
Right. And then, you say they like being in the shadows. The very fact that they're launching, all other products, whether it's oral nicotine or nicotine toothpicks or other nicotine flavored products also. But it's the menthol thing that's really a kid favorite. And they've actually said themselves why menthol is so detrimental. And it has nothing to do with combustion. Finally, it just has to do with the menthol as characterizing flavor. So, we have now over a year to wait. Hopefully they will come in ahead of time. We have a new leadership over at FDA. So hopefully, with the new director and the new CTP director, which is the Center for Tobacco Products, they'll make a change. But I guess, we really have to
I've spoken to him, Dorian. I've spoken to the commissioner numerous times by phone, just he and I know how committed he is. I mean, the progress that we've been able to make recently is the direct result of the change in leadership. And so we're going in the right direction. We just got to keep pushing. Right.
So we as parents will keep voicing our, sharing our stories, voicing our opposition, telling why it's so important. Again, we have you all and educators and public health officials have brought down the youth smoking rate dramatically. In 1997, it was 28%. Today, it's under 6%. But again, it's the vaping which has come and taken that, that role. And we don't even know what the figures are going to show because the CDC and FDA had their National Youth Tobacco Survey in the field last year, but it was different because they did it from home. The kids were in quarantine. So kids were answering questions in quarantine, and the CDC and FDA themselves have said that this is not indicative of a trend, that this is a one-off. And so we have to see coming forward what the new numbers are going to show. But we're hearing from schools and families around the country that they're grappling with this, that the numbers are going up. I don't know if you've heard anything to that effect in your community, but that's something that we've been hearing quite a bit.
I think especially as kids have transitioned back to school and being in person and being out of the eye of their parents, when I think it is so much more likely that they have the opportunity to vape outside of their parents' supervision. When they were home, there's a lot less places to be clandestine about it. So naturally, it makes sense that there would be a return or an increase. And look, they are the victims of the aggressive marketing of the tobacco industry and the opportunity that it still exists to be able, because of the PMTs still being those still being on the market. And so we just have to keep pushing.
Right. So we'll keep fighting. I know you will keep fighting for us. We're getting a bunch of questions about youth statistics and, getting information about the conference. I just want to say that all of these panels are being recorded and they will be on our website. So people can come back and refer. I'm sure constituents or anyone concerned can reach out to your office representative. They can definitely reach out to us, volunteer. And you know what? We're all here. We're all in this together, and we just need to protect our kids and prevent a new generation from becoming addicted to nicotine. And, that's the most important, really. So, yeah. So thank you for your
we have to be as relentless as the tobacco industry.
Right. Exactly. And they have more money than, but no one can pay. We're parents, we're volunteers. No one is paying us to tell our story, to share our pain. And we think that that's more impactful than anything the nicotine,
Sure.
lobbies can say, and, all of the money that they have just can't silence us. So thank you again.
And we vote.
And vote. Exactly. Everyone has
vote.
to, exactly.
Yes.
So,
thank you all so much for your work.
Great to see you. And we're going to go into some breakout sessions now.